Good day, ma'am. I am Anamichi Sohon from Betla-1. I am here to narrate the salient features in fermentation and pickling, including its equipment, tools, utensils, and materials used. Fermentation. Fermentation is one of the most ancient and most important food processing technologies. However, scientists and policy makers have neglected this area, particularly traditional fermented products from developing countries. Fermentation is one of the oldest forms of food preservation technologies in the other world. Indigenous fermented foods such as bread, cheese, and wine have been prepared and consumed for thousands of years and strongly linked to culture and traditional, especially in rural households and village communities. Fermentation is a relatively efficient, low energy preservation process which increases the shelf life and decreases the need for refrigeration or other form of food preservation technology. It is therefore a highly appropriate technique for use in developing countries and remote areas where access to sophisticated equipment is. Fermentation fruits and vegetables can bring many benefits to people in developing countries. Fermented foods play an important role in providing food security, enhancing livelihoods, and improving the nutrient and social well-being of millions of people around the world, particularly the marginalized and vulnerable. Fermentation is a cheap and energy-efficient means of preserving perishable raw materials. When harvested, fruit and vegetables undergo rapid deterioration, especially in the humid tropics where the prevailing environmental conditions accelerate the process of decomposition. There are several options for preserving fruit and vegetables, including drying, freezing, canning, and pickling. However, many of these are inappropriate for use on the small scale in developing countries. For instance, the canning of vegetables at the small scale has serious safety implications, and contamination with botulism is a possibility. Freezing of fruits and vegetables is not economically viable at the small scale. Fermentation requires very little sophisticated equipment, either to carry out the fermentation for for subsequent storage of the fermented products. It is a technique that has been employed for generations to preserve food for consumption at a later date and to improve food security. There are examples from around the world of the role fermented foods have played in preserving food to enhance food security. Fermented Fermentation and pickling. Although microorganisms are usually fermentation and pickling. Although microorganisms are usually brought of a causing spoilage, they capable under certain conditions of producing desirable effects, including oxidative and alcoholic fermentation. The microorganisms that grow in a food product and the changes they produce are determined by acidity, available carbohydrates, oxygen, and temperature. An important food preservation method combines salting to control microorganisms selectively and fermentation to stabilize the treated tissues. Tools and equipment for fermentation. Cutting tools. You need only one good knife to chop vegetable, but you can also use a vegetable grater to shred vegetables. Or if you have one, a food processor to speed things up, just avoid potting onions in a food processor as the blender render them extremely better. Cutting surface. Personally, I find chopping on a small cutting board frustrating. A good size cutting board gives you a room to work. But if you have only one small cutting board, that will certainly do. Mixing bowls. Metal will react with the acid that fermentations produce. However, when you simply prepare a ferment such as vegetables, the fermentation has not yet begun. So, although I would recommend you pack your fermented food in glass or ceramic vessels, metal is perfect fine for preparing and mixing your fermented foods. Jars and cook. For fermenting vegetable, I use glass jars with screw top lids or bale top jars with rubber gaskets. Bottles. You can drink kombucha after it has fermented, or you can bottle it. I almost always bottle and flavor mine. Weights. In order for vegetable and food to ferment properly, you must submerge them in liquid. Stainless steel funnel. You shouldn't brew or bottle acidic kombucha in metal vessels, which can cause an undesirable reaction. Traditional sauerkraut crocks. You can splurge in a beautiful stoneware pickling crocks and weights, but you can easily produce delicious sauerkraut without this. Given their large crocks enable you to ferment very large batches of food. Wooden pounder. To make sauerkraut, you need to first brush your vegetable before either packing them into jars or placing them in an open crock to ferment. Pickling tools and equipment. Pickling comes with its own supplies and ingredients. The canning jars. A recommended home canning jar comes in several standard sizes, ranging from pints to quarts. The two main brands in canning jars are Ball and Kier. However, glass containers that are used to fill commercially made products such as mayo spreads can also be used as pickle jars. However, it is not safe to use commercial food product containers that are supposed to be used only once. For each pickle recipe, make sure to use the appropriate size jar. Commercial canning jars or newly bought ones are not guaranteed to have been subjected to safe processing procedures, so it is wise to sterilize them before packing pickles into it. Boiling water canners can be more convenient as they already come with lids and bands. Pickling spices. Pickling spices are the mixture of spices that helps in inducing a depth of flavor to pickles. They are usually unfolded in a small pouch and cooked with other pickled ingredients. Instead of being preserved with the pickle, the spices are taken out after the cooking process. There are a variety of ingredients used which can vary greatly based on the traditional preferences of certain cuisines. A basic spice mixture often includes coriander seeds, black peppercorns, mustard seeds, cloves, ginger root, cinnamon stick, chilies, and bay leaves. Store packaged pickling spices are available in supermarkets or grocery stores. But to give the pickled food a homespun signature, it can be fun to make it at your own kitchen. You can easily make large portions or small packs of pickling spices for the next pickle batch. The pickling spice blend can be stored in an airproof container for several months. Vinegar for pickling. Vinegar is one of the most important ingredients used in pickling foods. Yes, this is true. Use vinegars that has an acidity level of 5%. Grocery stores now have a supply of vinegar that has only 4% acetic acid, so shop scrupulously since vinegars of this type are not approved for making homemade pickles. Types of vinegar that typically have 5% acetic acid include white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and the apple cider flavored distilled vinegar. White vinegar has a soft acidic acidic tang that establishes a smooth flavor and light color to the pickled vegetables. Apple cider vinegar leaves pickled products a darkened color but adds a fruity taste to the pickle. There is also apple cider flavored distilled vinegar incorporates white distilled vinegar with an apple cider flavoring. It tastes the same as the apple cider vinegar. Jar grabber. A jar grabber is convenient tools used for pulling out jars from boiling water. There's no need for fumbling around the pickles jars anymore as this handy grabbing tool simply lifts them up from any angle. Funnel. Funnels aid in the careful pouring of pickled ingredients into the sterilized jars. If it spares you potential spills and unwanted ingredient leaks. There are different size funnels for filling big and small jars and bottles. Also, customized funnels are popular choices for people storing their pickled foods in medium-sized containers. Lid lifter. Lid lifter. A lid lifter helps in removing jar lids safely and securely from scalding hot water. It ensures a firm grip on jar lids and allows the movement of the cover in any positions. This item also decreases hand contact while keeps things steady and sterile. Make sure to sanitize the lid lifter as well. Pickling crock. A crock looks like a pot on a small bucket that helps in the safe fermentation of pickled foods. The main purpose of this pickling item is to create tasty, fermented vegetables that encourage good bacterial growth to fight off bad bacteria in raw foods. Just about any vegetable can be pickled right up from the crock. Crocks have been used as containers to pickle food for centuries. They are usually made of stoneware or ceramics. Ensure that there are no splinters and chips found on the crock for safe usage. So that would be all, ma'am, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.